Hey everyone, this is First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Thought I'd do a vlog update today because the social media weather buzz is already swirling about a potential winter storm for the weekend. Problem is, there's a lot of things that you aren't being told and a lot of people are leading you astray. It's not that there isn't the potential for something very interesting this weekend, but I like to lay out the facts and kind of get to the point of what's more important in the near term, and as we get closer to the weekend, we'll have a better idea. Let's first of all, I want to focus on one thing real quickly here, as we're going to talk about this setup over the next couple days. It's really warm today. We'll be pushing 80 degrees today and likely 80 degrees tomorrow, but there are some big changes coming for Wednesday and into the later part of the week. A significant cool down by April standards. This is going to be pretty dramatic cool down for early April. The one thing that I find interesting, and everybody's talking about this weekend storm, but in the near term, within the next 2 to 3 days, which is a much more likely scenario and easier to forecast, there's a pretty significant cold front. This is the cold front that's going to bring some big changes. Now, this cold front this time of year, severe weather is a pretty significant threat. My question to so many people, why are you talking about a possible winter storm, which is very unlikely for some areas, especially deep south this weekend, and not talking about this severe weather threat, which is really in our face tomorrow into Wednesday? I think you're doing a huge disservice to people by not talking about the more likely severe weather threat that is coming in tomorrow. But I'm going to talk about that because this is a strong cold front. You can see with this low, this is a typical spring system, late winter, early spring system. And with this strong cold front and dynamics, there is plenty of shear and cape all the way up into the Ohio Valley. You can see the amount of shear. It's off the charts. The cape actually all the way up to Lake Erie looks rather impressive. So this is part one of what we need to talk about, this very significant cold front, which will be moving into the Carolinas on Wednesday into Thursday. So the potential for some severe weather is very likely. Now, it is going to drop temperatures rather significantly on the backside. We'll talk more about that. But you can see the severe weather threat tomorrow. I mean, everyone's posting about this winter thing, but nobody's talking about this. Come on, this is a big deal. And then look at what happens on Wednesday. This is day 3. We're in the low end, but it's still something to keep an eye on. This could be upgraded to a slight or even enhanced or moderate risk, the higher the threat level going into Wednesday. So something to keep an eye on, just to keep in the back of your mind that let's put the winter thing on the back burner for a second, and let's focus on the fact that we could have some strong storms on Wednesday or Thursday, and tomorrow we'll have strong storms in the Ohio Valley. Okay, so why are people freaking out over the weekend? Well, 1 or 2 model runs came out that were showing crazy snowfall way down into South Carolina. But they were bogus. They weren't very likely. I mean, in fact, the GFS model was showing a record low temperature in the middle of an afternoon on Saturday in April. That doesn't even happen in the middle of January, let alone April. So the temperatures look really bogus to me. But you can see the setup here. The Arctic front moves through. It does cool down rather dramatically this week. And you can see the cold air and snow to the north. Now, I don't want to poo-poo this thing completely because it's certainly going to be a very interesting system. And I think from the mountains and up into Virginia, the potential is there. There's going to be some snow. But you see the strong system coming down. And this is the new GFS model, which you probably won't see a lot of people post because it wasn't as crazy looking as the previous run. But I don't like focusing on specific model runs. I'm just showing you this to kind of show you the setup. I wouldn't read too much into the specifics right now. But the setup is we've got this big, for this time of year, really cold high pressure system pumping in cold air. And we've got a wave forming on this front, which is going to be pushing into the Carolinas. Now, climatologically, it's very unlikely to get snow into the Piedmont of North Carolina south. It can happen, but typically it happens when you have upper lows where cold air is aloft. This is all about really cold air at the surface, which is really hard to get thick cold air coming down this time of year. So this is at 2 p.m. Basically on Saturday afternoon. You can see the model is showing some snow up in Virginia. Now this is probably a little bit more questionable, but back in here, I think this is definitely an area to watch. I think the potential for snow there is much more possible now than anywhere south. And as we go through Saturday into Sunday, you see that snow staying in the mountains and up into Virginia. And then we go into Sunday morning and the whole system moves out. And it gets really cold. I mean, this is cold air. So two things to think about this system. I'm not really worried about snow or wintry precip south of, let's say, Interstate 40 right now. But I would be more concerned about the hard freeze, which is coming in behind this thing. This would be a devastating freeze for people who planted earlier, for farmers, because now we're well into April, and this could be a really nasty freeze. But again, this is the latest run. It's not as crazy looking as the previous one, so people probably won't share it as much. And it's just one model, mind you. So I'm not overly concerned. But here's what I think is going to happen. And I love the Weather Prediction Center's handling of this, because I think this is great. And I posted this earlier. It has a 10% chance in green for wintry precip in here. And right now, that definitely makes sense to me. That's all we really know. There's about a 10% chance we could see some wintry weather in those locations. Further north, that jumps to between 30 and 50%. So that's an area to keep an eye on right now. From basically Interstate 40 south, it is incredibly hard to get snow this time of year, especially with this kind of setup. Could it happen? Yes. We've had snow as late as April 20th here in the Charlotte area. And in fact, April 8th is our all-time record snowfall for April. And that, I think, was back in 1880. We had 3 inches of snow. But typically that comes with an upper low, which brings cold air down to the surface aloft. That's a much easier way to get snow this time of year than with surface cold air coming all the way down here. This thing would have to time up exactly perfectly. Cold air, cold shot coming in, and it has to be more at night. This middle of the afternoon snow, very unlikely. So right now, I would say this is probably going to trend towards a very cold rain. And if we're going to see a wintry mix, this is the area to watch up in here. Of course, this is still 5 days out. We've got plenty of time to watch it. Let's worry about the severe weather in the middle of the week first. Get the cold air here. Then, as we get later in the week, we can break it down. Either way, ground's warm, sun angle is high. It's April. The day is actually longer than the night. It is getting really hard to get snow, even in this perfect setup that one single model will show you. So don't buy the hype just yet. Let's show you what's more likely to happen than what could happen. I could spend all day talking about could-haves. Anything could happen. You could win the lottery. That Chinese satellite could have hit you, but there was a 1 in 300 trillion chance of that happening. I'd rather give you the opportunity to see what's most likely to happen. And right now, it looks like a miserable cold rain for a lot of us, and the potential for maybe some wintry weather to the north. These are the areas to keep an eye on. Right in here, I think this run that just came out makes a whole heck of a lot more sense than what we saw earlier today. Hope you have a great Monday. I'm on spring break with the kids, but I will be keeping track of this. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here in the Carolinas, and I'll post throughout the week. Have a great day, everybody.